Okay, here is number 49 from your Unit 1 practice test review. The question says the height of a triangle is 10 centimeters more than its base. If the area of the triangle is 100 square centimeters, find its base and height. Okay, so when doing these types of word problems, the most important word is the word is, okay? And is means equals. So every time you see the word is, just put an equal sign, especially looking at each of these sentences. So that's an equation that I have to come up with. And so is this one over here. You'll notice there's an is here too as well. All right, so let's deal with the first one, and then we'll deal with the second one. The first one says the height of a triangle is 10 centimeters more than its base. So what variable do we want to use, okay, when we say the height of a triangle? Well, usually we say h, okay, so let h equal the height of the triangle. And the word is gives us an equal sign. And after the equal sign, after the is, it says 10 centimeters more than its base. So height and base, this makes sense for a triangle, and we know that the height is 10 more than the base, where we'll let b equal the base. Okay, so we have our first equation. Let's go see if we can do the same thing with the second one. The second one says the area of the triangle is 100 square centimeters. Okay, so it's telling us that the area, let's say A, is, we'll use the equal sign, 100 square centimeters. So that's 100, and you could put your square centimeters in there. We'll probably use our units more towards the end. All right, so somehow we got to relate these things, and do we know any formulas of triangles that will relate area, height, and base? Of course we do. We know that the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Okay, so what do we have so far? So far we know that the area is 100, followed by the equal sign and the 1/2. Now this base, we'll just call it B, and then this h is where we're going to make a substitution. So since this is the same as h, we can put this in for h. So instead of writing h there, I'll write 10 plus b. And notice the use of parentheses, because that's going to come into play soon enough. Okay, so here comes the tricky stuff. We have to solve this one. Now, on the right-hand side, there's a fraction. So anytime we see a fraction, hopefully from Algebra 1, okay, we learn that when we have this situation, what we want to do is we want to multiply both sides by 2. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I multiply 2 by 1/2, that'll get rid of the fraction, because that'll equal 1. So that's a really nice move to make our lives a lot easier. So right here you can see I multiplied both sides of the equation by 2. Okay, so moving forward here, 2 times 100 is 200. Then 2 times 1/2 is 1. 1 times b is b. And we're still left over with b times 10 plus b. Okay, no problem. Let's move forward. That's 200. If I distribute, I get 10b plus b squared. Okay, and then what we now have is a quadratic equation, and the reason we have that is because now we're trying to solve with a variable that has a square on one of its variables. So we call that the quadratic type. So what I'm going to do is, the first thing you want to do when you want to solve quadratics, and hopefully this is just a refresher from Algebra 1, is you want to get everything to one side and 0 to the other. So I can make this move by subtracting 200 and just organizing things using the commutative property so everything looks nice. But basically what I did is I just subtracted 200 from both sides. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to map this guy over to something you're more familiar with. So instead of using b's, let's just use x's because we're used to that type. So let's write x squared plus 10x minus 200 is equal to 0. And this is a quadratic, okay? And you guys should recognize these from Algebra 1, okay? So Algebra 1 hopefully showed you how to solve these. Now, if you don't know how to factor, you can always solve quadratics with the greatest formula ever. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where a, b, and c are the coefficients of the squared term, the first term, and the constant. In other words, a here is equal to 1 because there's a 1 in front of the x squared. You know, b is equal to 10, and c is equal to negative 200. Okay, moving forward, let's just plug those guys in here. Okay, so just to separate a little bit. So x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 10. Always use parentheses anytime you plug in. You don't really need them there, but it's a good habit to have. And c is negative 200 all over 2 times a, which is 1. All right, let's clean this up a bit. So x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus. All right, a little mental math. We'll be all right. Yeah, it's not that bad. 10 squared is 100. 2 negatives make a positive, and 4 times 2 is 8, so that's 800. Plus 100 is 900, okay? All over 2. We can fix that a little bit. That looks nicer. So x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus, what's that? That's going to be 100 times 9. So that's, we can break that down pretty easy. Let's just show you 100 times 9. So that's 10 times 3. Okay. So x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus 30 all over 2. So that means x is equal to negative 10 plus 30 over 2, or x is equal to negative 10 minus 30 over 2. If you clean that up, negative 10 plus 30 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Minus 40 divided by 2 is a minus 20. So let's go ahead and, or I should say a negative 20. Okay. So again, it took a lot to get there, but yeah, we got these two numbers, and let's see which one makes the most sense. Okay, so let's go up here and see what we're talking about here. So they want to know the base and the height. So what did I really solve for here? I found out, remember I made the replacement that x is equal to b here. So that means b is equal to 10 or negative 20. So we have the formula h is equal to, b, or 10 plus b, okay? So 10 plus b. So h can equal, I don't know, 10 plus 10 is 20. Or h can equal, well, 10 minus 20 is negative 10. Well, heights can't really be negative, so we're going to eliminate that answer and just call an extraneous solution. Hopefully you used about those. And now we know that for our answer, h is equal to 20 and the base is equal to 10. That was probably one of the more toughest problems I've seen us do in class. If I was to learn this problem, I would make sure I have everything else done first. Okay, under 10 minutes, but not bad. All right.